Yes, even the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, no other army in the world goes this far, inviting pressmen to show evidence during a war. The Israelis are aware that no matter what they do, that people will still condemn them, but they do it anyway. Let's take a deep dive into how they discovered the hostage holding room underneath a Gaza hospital. When they released this video animation of a Hamas operation center deep under a hospital in Gaza, it didn't look real because it sounds strange that someone will build such a thing under a hospital. But this is Hamas here. They specialize on guerrilla warfare. Now that Israeli soldiers have located a hostage holding room under a hospital, many people that doubted this information before are now coming to terms. All their intelligence gathering are being pieced together. We'll come back to how they did it with the help of a robot in a moment. Now, why does Hamas need tunnels in the first place? It's very obvious why. They want to hide their operations from the prying eyes of drone cameras and satellites that Israel uses to conduct surveillance in Gaza. A Hamas official living outside Gaza said this in an interview.
هذه الأنفاق من أجل أن نحمي أنفسنا من الطائرات، نحمي مقاتلين من الأنفاق. أما القطاع غزة فأنت تعلم والجميع يعلم بأنه 75% منه لاجئين، واللاجئين هو مسؤولية الأمم المتحدة في حمايتهم.
The fact that Hamas is investing in tunnels doesn't mean that their operations are completely hidden. They know this, that's why they try as much as possible to disguise and camouflage the shafts and entry points to the tunnel. That's why you see some like this one looking like an elevator shaft, and inside the tunnel network they still have operation rooms where they can hold secret meetings and even hostages, as have been proven by the discovery made by Israeli soldiers. Now to the next stage, following military deception and camouflage. If you want to deceive the enemy about the locations of your operations, weapons stockpiles, escape rooms, you need to build them in places where intelligent officers will never suspect that such might exist. That's practically hiding it in plain sight. So it's not really surprising or strange that Hamas will link their tunnels under hospitals, mosques, and schools. Not just tunnels or shafts, they build other infrastructure under hospitals and sensitive locations. This makes it difficult to detect, and when they are detected, like Israeli soldiers have done, striking such locations will obviously harm innocent civilians. So the kind of guerrilla warfare that Hamas employs not only forces the hand of the enemy, it's also very dangerous for innocent bystanders because of how embedded they are into the civilian population. They cannot be hitting someone and expect not to be hit back. War is not a game. The fact that one enemy is brought down might force his colleague to retaliate in agony. Fighting in the streets of Gaza, the Israeli soldiers are not engaging people in uniform. They just see people firing at them and they return fire. Now, getting back to how the IDF discovered this hostage holding room under the Gaza hospital. Fighting a guerrilla warfare can be intense, especially in a built-up area. It's even worse than a jungle because you can burn down the jungle to expose everyone hiding, like the US Army did in Vietnam. But Gaza is different. It's a sprawling city. They can't just knock out all the buildings, so the IDF released this image that shows the proximity between the home of a senior Hamas official and a hospital. By the way, they are currently digging around the area to expose the tunnel network linking the hospital. When they found this shaft that leads to the tunnel, obviously it's very dangerous to send soldiers in. It will be difficult to determine what lies beneath, whether it's booby-trapped or anything. To safely explore the grounds below, they had to lower down a robot that is specifically designed for this kind of exploration. The robot found a blast-proof door inside the tunnel. They saw a convenience room, they saw a ventilator system, they also saw curtains meant to create a false impression of a window. Why will anyone need to create such impression deep underground? Definitely not to impress Hamas members. It must be for outsiders, a hostage, a family member, maybe when they make a video to show proof of life. Seeing the curtains, one might think it's overground. They also found what looks like a log note on the wall written in Arabic. According to the IDF spokesman that did the presentation, he said the title reads Al-Aqsa Flood, 7th October. So it definitely looks like a place where hostages were held in the past. By now, the Israeli police might be sweeping the whole place for DNA to get clues about who was there and where they might possibly be right now. It's a very difficult situation. Since this operation is around a hospital, they are seeking evacuation of the hospital in order to minimize casualties. Let's take a listen.
Israel is ready to assist. We made a formal offer to health officials in Gaza to transfer incubators into Gaza Strip to assist the pediatric ward of Shifa Hospital. Extensive offers are underway to ensure that these incubators right here behind me can reach babies in Gaza without delay. Our war is against Hamas and not the people of Gaza.
Yes, that's the message many people need to understand. The war is between Israel and Hamas, not the people of Gaza. People can actually support the Palestinian cause and still condemn what Hamas did to Israeli civilians, and they continue to fire rockets into Israel till this moment. On the other hand, the many civilian casualties in Gaza is inexcusable. Despite the fact that Israeli soldiers are already in Gaza, Hamas still won't release the hostages, and the Hamas CEO of their health ministry is giving excuses why about 700 people they are treating in the hospital can't be evacuated. He should spend more time finding solutions to aid their evacuation because serious fighting is going on around the hospital. They seem to be resisting evacuation more than finding ways to evacuate. Many countries are interested in sending ambulances that can be used to evacuate ICU patients. They should take the offer because refusing to evacuate poses a great danger to the people they are trying to save. The foot dragging might mean they have something to hide. Yes, that's very likely. Going by the tunnel network that has been discovered so far, it seems that such heavy construction might be impossible to construct without people in the hospitals knowing about it. Hamas makes it difficult for Israel to fight them effectively by hanging around hospitals and schools, like this guy with an RPG near a hospital. It will definitely lead to innocent casualties. Israel understands the situation very well. That's why they even delivered 300 liters of fuel to the Gaza hospital. Let that sink in. In the middle of a war with Hamas, Israeli soldiers are delivering fuel to save lives of Palestinians. It takes a lot to do this in the middle of a war. It also takes a higher level of morality and understanding to do this. Humanity should come first in all our actions. On the other hand, the Hamas member and CEO of their health ministry actually stopped them from accepting the fuel. They also said that 300 liters will only last for a few minutes. Even if their enemy wants to save the life of someone, their brother or fellow citizen, will they refuse it because they are the enemy? It doesn't make sense. It looks like Hamas members prefer news of casualties to news of actual attempts to save people from becoming casualties. It is left for the Palestinians living in Gaza to decide if Hamas members that are running Gaza are actually working against their interest or for their interest. The reality now is that Palestinians living in Gaza should support the Israeli operation in Gaza. If they have information about movement of Hamas operatives and hostage locations, they can reveal that information to the Israeli commandos or through the channels that Israel provides for people who want to pass on information. If Israel successfully defeats Hamas, it will lead to the liberation of Palestinians living in Gaza. After the war, they can conduct elections to elect new leaders that will govern the Gaza Strip. This brings us to people who are quick to point out that Israel is an occupying force and that their actions provoke the atrocity that Hamas committed on 7th of October in Israel. They go on to mention many things Israel did in the past and try to justify Hamas' actions. Let's even assume that Israel did all this that they accuse them of, and some of them borders on human rights abuse, which is a fundamental right of everyone, which means that anyone or group that abuses human rights of people should be called out. If a brother is doing this to his fellow brother, he should be called out for it. If a leader or president of a country is maltreating the citizens like they mostly do in Africa and other parts of the world, they too should be called out. If Hamas, that is the government in Gaza, are found to be maltreating their people, endangering their lives and working against their overall interest, they too should be called out. Not calling them out will be double standards. Yes, the two can actually exist the same time. You can call Hamas out and condemn their actions and still continue supporting the Palestinian cause. The reality remains that innocent Palestinians are suffering because of the ongoing conflict. Thousands have fallen casualty. Thousands more are displaced, all because Hamas struck Israel on 7th October. Not even counting the thousands that became casualties in Israel as a result of their invasion and attack, would Israeli soldiers be in Gaza today, digging tunnels and looking for hostages? No, it's cause and effect. If Hamas didn't strike, they wouldn't be in Gaza. If Hamas didn't take hostages, Israel wouldn't have considered ground invasion of Gaza in the first place. They may just hit Hamas infrastructure from the air and call it a day. So depending on how far back you want to go on the conflict, the reality remains that there was peace before October 7th, and the Hamas atrocity brought everyone to the current situation. Getting back to how far back people want to go in the conflict, all the countries around Israel got their independence around the same time. The entire region used to be under the Ottoman Empire for about 400 years. After the Ottoman Empire, the French Mandate and the British Mandate administered the area. In Lebanon, they got their independence in 1943, after about 23 years under the French Mandate. In Syria, they got their independence in 1946, after spending more than 2 decades under the French Mandate. They united with Egypt in 1958 to form the United Arab Republic. The union didn't last long. They separated in 1961. Egypt themselves, they got their independence in 1922 from the British Empire. Jordan got their independence in 1946. In 1947, the United Nations approved the partition of mandatory Palestine to 2 states, a Jewish state and an Arab state. This was after the British Mandate expired. Israel went on to declare their independence in 1948. Palestine did not declare their own independence. The Israeli Declaration of Independence led to the First Arab-Israeli War. All their neighboring countries joined hands and invaded Israel at the same time. Iraq participated in the war despite not sharing a border with Israel. All the others, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, fought against Israel, but they ended up losing territory to Israel. Many might be asking what caused the war. The Arab countries simply didn't like the partition that the United Nations made. They felt that the Israelis didn't belong among them. Without going into the history that everyone knows, the focus here is that among all these countries in the Middle East, it is only Israel that is developing advanced technology. They've so improved themselves over the years despite the adversaries surrounding them. They've turned their land from desert to farmland while their neighbors continue to wish them away. They continue to agitate, but they've not done anything to improve their lives over the years. We'll continue this history in another video. The world hopes that this can be resolved quickly because the mounting casualties in Gaza is such a pity. And Hamas can end this right now by just releasing the hostages. It looks very simple, but still complicated. Thanks for watching.
بنيامين نتنياهو الآن الشعب الإسرائيلي بيحاكمه. حكومته بتحاكم الشعب الإسرائيلي. من يحاكم قادة حماس؟ إذا اتضح أن هناك خطأ. 10,000 ضحية، 12,000 ضحية، 30,000
حتى الآن
حتى الآن 30,000 جريح، المفقودين. شنو الإنجاز اللي تحقق؟ هو الإنجاز اللي تحقق هو ترهيب للناس في السوشيال ميديا، لا تتكلم خلاص. يعني التبرير الآخر الناس اللي تقتل والناس اللي يتسببون بقتلها من أطفال ومن نساء ومن رجال، علشان ما يبي محاسبة يقول والله راحوا شهداء. من يقرر الشهادة؟ من يقرر الشهادة؟ يعني أليس الأولى والأجدى أن يكون في تعليم وحضانة لهؤلاء الناس بدل من أخذ قرارات عشوائية؟ هذا اللي قتلهم، هذا اللي يقول راحوا شهداء، لما يصير القصف ينزل بالأنفاق. هذا اللي قتلهم، اللي يقول شهداء، هو لما صار القصف ينزل بالأنفاق تحت. اللي أطلق الصاروخ أطلق من قبو ولا خرج وقعد. ليش ما يروح شهيد هذا؟ ليش ما يجيبون عائلاتهم وأولادهم إذا كانوا يقولون عن الشهادة؟ ليش هم ما يستشهدون؟ أولا ليش لازم تموت الناس وتتهدم بيوتها عليها؟ شفتوا التضليل؟ قادة حماس يجب أن يحاكموا على الحقيقة الخطيئة اللي ارتكبوها بحق الشعب الفلسطيني. أول شيء بيحررون الأقصى والحين يتصايحون، بس وقفوا هدنة، الوقف إطلاق النار ونفك الرهاين. هذا انتصار، هذا غش للشعوب العربية، وبالتالي يجب أن تحاكم القيادات. السؤال من يحاكم القيادات؟ أبو مازن يحاكمهم؟ هم تمردوا على أبو مازن. من يحاكمهم؟ إيران تحاكمهم؟ إيران سعيدة بهذا الموضوع. يحاكمهم الله سبحانه وتعالى. كل الدماء اللي ماتت وانهدمت بيوتها من أطفال، وهذا برقبة هنية ومن شايع هنية.